Good morning, good life. My name is Amy Landino. Welcome to another episode of AmyTV, a very special episode of AmyTV. We're actually live right now in partnership with my friends over at QuickBooks. We are taking part in the Ask the Expert series. I am your expert for today, and I'm going to be talking about all of your questions or answering questions about time management, especially for those small businesses out there who are trying to figure out work-life balance and all that kind of fun stuff. That's what I really wanted to get into today with you. I actually first went over to my Instagram a couple of days ago, if you follow me over there, at Schmatastic, and asked you for questions in advance, so I'm going to get into those first. But please make sure that you ask questions throughout the stream because I'm going to be on here for a little while and I might have time to get to a few more, especially if you are able to come live. I appreciate you. I do want to be able to say hi to a couple of people. Is that possible, Ben? Because I don't have the link in front of me right now, but I want to say hi to anybody who is here because that's the best part of going live on my channel is just being able to do that with you. So first and foremost, thank you for being here. Let me pull up my questions too. Ben, are we good on that or no? On the link? Got to make sure that I don't mess up my Wi-Fi signal. That's the hardest part of the live stream. Okay, but just remember, pop into the chat. If you're saying hi, let me know where you're watching from. And if you tune into AmyTV all the time, or if you're pretty new, and your work-life balance and time management questions for your business, please let me know what those questions are so that I can get to them. Okay, I'm going to check out this situation real quick because I know you guys are all here with bells on. Pamela, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I see your question. Hopefully we'll get to that soon. Stephanie and Pranava, Genevieve is here. Wissa and Fitnete, Kelly Simpson, good to see you. Amanda, Max Dog, Petra, Eduardo, Lucy, Hill Kirby. There's so many of you guys here. Where are you guys watching from? Let me know in the chat. This is so much more fun when I can see what you guys are saying. Thank you for being here, especially since this is a special episode of Friday. We don't typically do, so hopefully you're all getting ready for the weekend, but let's talk about your work-life balance and time management stuff first. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my Instagram questions that I got, and we'll start with Enchanted Vines, who asked, can you give some tips on how to strike a balance with having a day job and a side business and a family? Well, first of all, that is a lot to deal with, and especially when you have a side hustle and a day job, there's probably such a clear vision in your mind of where you want to be, which is a really special place to be, and it can really be all-consuming in your mind. And I can completely understand that balance because there was a time where I had a full-time gig and a side gig, and I knew that side gig was going to be the main thing at some point if I kept my head in the right place. But it also reminds you all the time that there are other things going on and there's a life to live. For me, everything comes down to how much time do you actually have in the day. There's only so many hours in the day, and you probably feel that on a regular basis, no matter what your actual situation is, whether you're stay at home all the time or you have to balance being in different places with going after the life that you want with other options. But how many hours are there in the day? The only time to really grapple with that, or the only way to grapple with that, is to actually grapple with it and address it. How many hours do you need to sleep? How many hours do you have committed to the rest of the world versus how many hours do you get to spend working on the things that you want to be doing? And your family is a part of that want category, so there's going to be a balance there. I try to implement a lot of scheduling in my life as it pertains to the time batching, calendar blocking methodology. I talk about this a lot on this channel, so if you want an in-depth explanation about those things, then definitely check out videos around them. I have quite a few tutorials on them. But the basic gist of it is, if you look at all the things you have to do with all the things you want to do, instead of looking at a task list or instead of getting overwhelmed by all the things you should be doing and what you want to be doing, whether it's work-related, side hustle-related, or family-related, we need to start breaking them down and giving them space on the actual calendar. To me, I was never a math person, but it all comes down to math for me. It's how many hours do we get? Where do we spend them? And so scheduling the time, even if the things that you do every single day seem really self-explanatory, like go to day job, how many hours of the day is that? Mark it off on your calendar, just come to grips with it. How many hours do you have before it? How many hours do you have after it? And then how many hours are you sleeping? You really have to look at what you have left and go, okay, well, how do I want to use the rest of this time wisely? This is, by the way, a really great way to start thinking about, oh, what am I doing with my time that isn't really helping the situation? How can we take some of that out of the equation altogether so we have more time for family and have more time for side hustle? But that's probably the baseline, right? You've just got to figure out how much time do you actually have to focus on those things. It doesn't necessarily mean that working harder is working smarter. That's not always the case. And that's why families should still have room in the schedule. But when you look at how many hours you actually have to focus on the thing you're growing as a side hustle, you'll really be smarter about how you're using those hours, because you'll realize you just don't have as many as you'd like. And it really is a big job to not only say to your family, I'm hoping to build this side business to be something that's going to be my full-time gig, and then to actually spend the time on it and spend that time away from family and get it to that point, because it is going to take time and nurturing. So if nothing else, really start with, how do you take an audit of your time? Where do you typically spend your time? And how much do you have left? How much do you have left if you take some things out of the equation? And using the calendar blocking technique to see where you can fit in some extra time, both for the side hustle and specifically for the family, is my advice. What I would do in my own situation, what I did do in my own situation, and what I would advise for you, because we really can lose track of the time, and we don't want to lose track of that time with our family, certainly, but it's easy to lose track of how much time we actually have to build a side hustle to get it somewhere. If we can get it to be a shorter, long-term period of time to get us to the full time, that's ideal, right? So we need to use those hours smarter. We don't want to still be side hustling for 5 or 10 years. We would like to see that progress a lot sooner. So using those hours smarter is important. Great question. That's a really great question. Caitlin Pearson 1025 said, colleagues feeling antisocial and grumpy after following stay-at-home protocols for so long. I can totally, I imagine that when you go back to the office or when you go back to your team and things have changed and everybody's been ebbing and flowing so much, 2020 is a very strange place right now in terms of how we get work done, and it's not the same for everyone. But I think really being as optimistic as possible and making sure that you're making the best use of everyone's time, because certainly everyone, no matter what type of job that they have right now, with the world we're living in, we're getting a really good idea of what our time means to us. And we're realizing the things we can do from home, and we're also realizing the things we don't want to do from home. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of personalities at play there. But I think that there's a fine balance there. So I totally understand your struggle. DM Creates said, what is a specific routine to follow daily, weekly, monthly to stay on task? Here's the thing, not everyone's going to be the same. And I think that's a pretty obvious statement. That's a really easy thing for me to say. But it's true. You can't just say that there's one thing that everyone should be doing daily, weekly, or monthly. Although I think I would argue at least, just one thing. There's one thing everyone should do daily, every single day. Can you guess what I'm going to say? It's not what I would typically say. I'm going to tell you that daily you should be sleeping, right? Everyone needs sleep. At the end of the day, like if you did not get sleep, you cannot operate at your best level. And there are a tremendous number of CEOs and business people who do not get enough sleep. Usually has a lot to do with that work-life balance thing, whether there's a side hustle or not. Your gig tends to bleed into your night because we do things so much on technology these days, no matter if you work from home or not. We take work home a lot. And so that bleeds into family time, that bleeds into sleep time, because then when we go back to family, we get back to work after they go to sleep. Maybe that's the case for you. For me, I'm more likely to wake up early the next day and start digging into work after my morning routine. But having a good amount of sleep is really the number one productivity tip I could give you, no matter what your situation is, to make sure that you're operating at the best level the next day. And also for the rest of your life. That is one thing that will really take years away from you, is by not getting good sleep. So hopefully that's helpful. I want to see what my friends are saying in the chat real quick. Let's see. Jasmine said, I thought she was going to say morning pages. I know. I want to talk about that really quick. Morning pages, if you haven't heard, is in the book, The Artist's Way. It was introduced by the author, Julia Cameron. This is what I do every morning in my morning routine as a part of my mindfulness bucket. So in the book, Good Morning, Good Life, I talk about just covering 3 areas in your morning routine: mindfulness, movement, and mastery. So for me, mindfulness is morning pages. I get to brain dump for 3 pages. It's great. I let go of the grudges from the day before, the bad dreams I had, and I move on and I can do my best work. But that may not be the right mindfulness practice for someone else. Someone else might want to meditate, or somebody else might just want to go take a walk, knock out mindfulness and movement at the same time, not bring their phone, and just get their thoughts straight to start the day. Everyone's got a different mindfulness practice. And so morning pages might be great for some people. It's definitely been amazing for me, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case for you, but definitely sleeping. Definitely sleeping. I had a feeling that somebody was going to say that, so I wanted to see if that was the case. Rosanna's here from Peru. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good to see you. Definitely a lot of people thought I was going to say either morning routine or exercise. We've got Saudi Arabia tuning in right now. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here. I really appreciate that. Let me go back to another question. Hannah Person said, how do I change many routines and make it work? I think this is sounding like a lot of us, where we want to do way too much at one time. And even just one thing in a regular routine takes time to be habitual, and we need to give it that time in order to make that happen. So I would argue, Hannah, please don't try to change a million routines at once. It's going to result in failure. And I think of it like this: anytime any of us is like, oh, I need to go on a diet, I need to work out, I need to do all these things all at the same time, I need to make a huge change, and we ultimately fail, and it's not good for the short term. If we want to see good things for the long term, just making those small changes on a regular basis, making sure they stick, is going to be the way to go for that. So when it comes to your time, maybe calendar blocking is a big undertaking, or having a fully fleshed out morning routine is a big undertaking. But if you can make one thing happen differently the next day and try to get it to happen for a week and then 2 weeks, and make sure it's really sticking to be something that you actually like, first and foremost, something that you enjoy, then you're going to be more likely to make more changes as you go along. But it's really difficult to change a lot of things at once, because not only is it the short game, but you may not, like I said, be sure you enjoy it. And that's what I get worried about with people with morning routines the most, is they'll say, okay, here's Amy's morning routine. We're going to do morning pages. We're going to do 5-minute journal. We're going to do Good Morning, Good Life planner. Then we're going to go get on the Peloton, and then we're going to go. And then it's like, okay, but that may not work for you. That may not feel right for you. And there might be only 2 things in there that you like and a bunch of other stuff you don't, but you give up on the things you like because you're trying to do too many things that are not a fit for you. That's what I don't want to see. So don't get too overwhelmed by taking on too many changes at once. And it can feel like you have to, especially when you're in business and you're trying to better manage your time, because there's so much pressure on you to make the best use of your time. But you're going to waste so many hours doing the wrong thing in the short term than if you would just get the right things right for the long term. Okay, let's see. Next question. Sonia said Google Calendar. I really appreciate that this was not a question. It was just a statement with an exclamation point, because I'm a big believer in Google Calendar. I think there's probably quite a few people in business that are using the Google world to organize their life, and you could be different. You might be using something else. So when I talk about this, just use your own preferred calendar methodology, as you will. But calendar blocking for me is basically the home base for all that time batching and blocking that I do for my time. The calendar on Google for me is so scientific, I want to say. It's really not. But it's color coded. I have different codes. I have different calendars. I have different things. If you invite me to a call, it has to be on a specific calendar. Like, it gets a little bit crazy for me, which is why I have somebody that has to help me manage it. But the biggest thing is the color codes. If nothing else, I can see what I should be thinking about and what mode I should be in based on the color code that I see. So to give you an example, there's a color code for like girl, get your face on, okay? If I have to record a video, if I have to do a live stream, if I have to take a video call, if there's like a presentability that comes with the job that's going on the record for the long term, then I've got a color for that. Versus a different type of appointment, which is just phone calls or audio recordings or just sorting through some emails. That's just kind of getting tasks done. I don't have to be camera ready, so I don't have to be in that mode. I use color codes in Google Calendar in order for me to help myself get into that headspace. I'll also use time batching so that I make sure that those days where I'm doing similar tasks are close to each other, and I'm trying to do as much as I can to get the most mileage out of the makeup, you know what I mean? But that is my biggest tip with Google Calendar. The best thing that you can do is say, hey, Amy, it's family time, and make that its own color on the calendar. Even if there's not a thing specifically that you're doing with your family once you're trying to check out of work or you're trying to check out of your emails or whatever you're doing for your business, let yourself know, hey, it's time to turn off. And I use a color to do that because I'm like, oh, I can kind of like let my hair down. I can relax now because this is the mode that I need to be in. That's what helps me. I'm a very visual person. I'm much more likely to watch a video tutorial on something than I am to read a manual because I need to see what's supposed to happen. And that's what color codes do for me on Google Calendar and help me with my calendar blocking method. So I just wanted to shout that out because even though that was a very broad bringing up of Google Calendar, that's how I use it. And also why I can't really do an analog calendar. Anything that I do on paper, like the Good Morning Good Life Planner, is meant to be just very in the moment, what's happening, and it can change, and that's okay. Keeping track of my life has to happen in a digital format because things move around, things get rescheduled, and that's okay. Let's see. Okay. Z, might, and stars. I had to say that really slow because I don't know how to say it. How do you create a new routine? It's so hard to stick to plans when I can easily lay down on my bed. Relatable. I love that. Here's the thing. This is the heart of everything that I talk about. Just talking about a routine, just talking about a habit. Oh,
I couldn't hear what you said.
Siri, be quiet. Just talking about those things is really easy. Just saying, get a routine, it'll change your life. Really easy. But if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, it's not going to happen. Like I can tell you right now, you can read Good Morning, Good Life. You can say, I'm going to do my mindfulness, my movement, my mastery. I'm going to color code my calendar. I'm going to do all the things. But if you don't know why you're doing it, you're definitely not going to get out of bed. The bed is fabulous. The bed has a wonderful why. It's comfort and joy and warmth, right? You've got that figured out. But if you're building something, if you're building your business, if you're starting your side hustle, if you're doing something to change your life and you can see where you're going and what world you're going to be in when you're there and who you're going to become and who you aspire to be, when you get real about that, that gets you out of bed. It takes some practice. It's not super easy. I'm not a morning person. I don't jump out of bed every day. I snooze every now and again, but my vision and what I'm going for is very clear, so it's less likely I'm going to hit the snooze. It's less likely I am not going to get up early because I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Here's the trick to that. You have to be very honest about your why. Your why is not necessarily that beautiful bio sentence you came up with for your Instagram. It might not be something socially acceptable to the rest of the world, and that's okay, because it only has to resonate with you. No one's holding your hand to get out of bed, I don't think. I mean, who knows? Maybe that could be the case for you. But if you're an adult growing a business or getting started with the life that you want, you get your butt out of bed. You're the only one that's going to convince yourself to do it. So knowing why that's important to you is vital. If you don't have that, this is all short-lived. This is very much not going to be a long-term plan for you. I'll give you an example. If you just scroll Instagram and you see I posted something cool or somebody else you admire is doing really great stuff and you go, I should be doing that, that's not a why. That's not enough. You have no idea what the journey was for that person to get to that point. You have no idea what they're really building in their mind. You don't know what their vision is. You can't just look at someone's highlight reel and say, I want that. That is what I want. It has to be more than that. It can build, that feeling can build over time, and you can start to see yourself in that setting so that you can understand your why. But if it isn't true to what's in your heart, it's not truly your why. That's how I get out of bed. That's how and anytime I've met anyone that's been high performance or productive, they're just really clear about what they want. And they're not worried about anybody else thinking it's cool. They're not worried about anybody else giving them permission. They may have gone through seasons of that, and there are moments where we do kind of want outside gratification, but they're very clear on what they want and why that is, and that's why they get up. And that's how the routines start. And that's how you pick one thing. Okay, I'm going to start every morning just doing a mindfulness practice. I'm going to not scroll my phone. I'm going to tuck my phone in bed in another room the night before. And when I wake up, it's not the first thing I'm going to look at. You are only going to be motivated by that if you know why you're doing it. So that is my thought on that. Let's see. How to schedule your day for maximum productivity from the big talk. I think I touched on this a little bit, but I really think time batching does a lot. You can make sure that you get the most, just like if you were running errands on a typical day. If you run errands on a typical day, you're going to go run a couple of errands at the same time, right? I'm already in the car. I'm already going here. I'm already going to that side of town. So I'm going to knock out a couple of things. I think you can be the same way in your schedule. Here's the tricky part. Many people won't do this because it means they'll have to communicate it. Are you with me? Where you have to tell someone, oh, hey, I'm sorry, I can't meet with you for coffee on Wednesday morning because I don't meet anyone for coffee on Wednesday mornings. I only do that kind of thing on Friday afternoons. That is, you might want to approach the topic a little bit differently depending on your personality, but sticking to that is where a lot of people have a hard time because it means you're holding yourself accountable that you're trying to batch your day accordingly or trying to get the maximum productivity possible. But when you start thinking about your why, and when you start thinking about your color codes and making sure that you're not stressed out when you have to run to coffee one morning because you don't typically like to make time for those kind of things first thing, you try to focus on your own mindset first thing. The only way to make sure you don't trip yourself up is if you actually do hold yourself accountable for that. One really crazy thing that I have done in the last, let's say since I think it was April I implemented this, I just realized that my email was getting a little messy and I wasn't able to get to everything and I was a little disorganized about it. And I thought, you know what? I really need to make sure that people's communication gets through to the right person. And the right person may not be me. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm the best person at email of all time. I love getting to inbox zero, but I need someone's help in order to do that. So I have a forever living autoresponder in my inbox that says, there's a super high likelihood I'm not going to get your email for the next 48 hours. Because there's times where I can't check my email that often. And so I immediately give them my assistant's name and her email address, which is her, of course, business email address, so that they can directly correspond with her. They are given an immediate autoresponder so that if their issue is urgent, it goes to her, or if it's not, and they just want to up their chances they're going to get a hold of me, they go to her. And that has saved me so much time. I don't think about the fact that not only do I have so many irons in the fire, but I also need to go and check my email on a daily basis. That actually ends up being a lot, especially when you're in business for yourself and you have incoming all the time for different reasons. And all of those incomings are requests for your attention. All of these people requesting your attention. Now think back to your family who's requesting your attention. Who's more important to you? You have to balance those things. So finding those little tricks to being able to balance that for yourself is really important. It's very important to me. And even if I have to make a joke every now and again when somebody doesn't expect to get that kind of email response from me, it's okay because I know I'm doing it for the right reasons and that I'm actually helping people better than I would if I didn't reply to them. So to me, your maximum productivity is finding those little hacks and finding ways to batch your time and sticking with it, holding yourself accountable that no, I don't need to hang out in my email and just make sure everything's fine because everyone has been communicated with of the better way to handle it. Okay, those are some good Instagram questions. I've got some more, but I don't have as much time left. So I'm gonna head over to YouTube to see some questions. Vin, did you see any come in YouTube that I can go to right away?
Yeah, Miranda asked, have you ever wanted to do multiple things at a time and had trouble picking what to focus on?
Miranda is asking about focus, multiple things at once. So I actually just talked about this yesterday in the GAT-loo Society too, which is great because this happens all the time where we have so many things in front of us that we could do, and then we get distracted and we go and we work on them. And let's say we have a week of time and we've got one project we really need to get all the way done, but then some shiny object shows up and we want to kind of start on that. It can be hard to focus. I think, again, this goes back to your why, but if you're not clear on the goals for your business or for your project, it's much easier to get wrapped up in shiny object syndrome. I was just doing it earlier today. I was like, ooh, that'd be really fun if I did that on my Instagram. And I started like thinking about Googling a little bit and like looking around and maybe buying some fun little graphics. And then I was like, no. I am doing a live stream today. I am going to be the best possible version of myself on the stream today. I'm going to go look through all the questions. I'm going to read the questions in advance. I'm going to make sure that I know how I want to talk to everybody. And so staying in that mode was really important to me. But what I'm going to do instead is, if I am so sure that that is something that would be great, I might want to focus on that. But if I might want to, I don't know that yet. I have to schedule it. So I use my bullet journal for analog note taking, or analog just remembering fleeting moments in my mind or ideas or things that I might want to do, and I'll write it down. Because on a weekly basis, I do some reflection and I go back through all my tasks, I go back through all my appointments, I go back through all my ideas that I wrote down, and I say, do any of these really have feet? Do they have somewhere they can go? If they do, when would be the appropriate time for that? And then starting to actually plan when they should happen helps you get to that point where you can do it. Some ideas just need to be simmered on for a little while, though. They don't need to be planned right away. They may not be the right thing. I have to go back to my annual goals to figure that out. If I do this, does this have anything to do with helping me get to the place I want to be at the end of the year? If the answer is yes, then plan away. If not, then let it go and just let it be that thing that lives in your idea notebook for maybe a later time. But jumping into shiny object syndrome right when it happens is so hard, because you do lose that focus on that project that needs to get done. And even if you don't have firm deadlines from the rest of the world, giving yourself deadlines is big. Probably a really grand example would be when I wrote both of my books, Vlog Like a Boss and Good Morning, Good Life. For both of them, I knew what was going into them. I just needed to get words on paper. And I reserved 3 weeks to write each one of them. And I just marked that time off on my calendar. I wasn't allowed to do anything else for those 3 weeks except for write. So that's a great example, right? You have a clear deadline. You need a first draft at the end of these 3 weeks. Otherwise, you have no idea when this is going to get done ever, because you've got other things that are coming up. Sticking with that deadline was important. So knowing that shiny object syndrome was going to happen throughout, because as I'm writing a book, I'm coming up with new ideas. So I'm like, ooh, that's fun. I'm going to go do that. No, this is the game plan right now. Stick to it. Use your Pomodoro timer. Take breaks when you need to, but stay on the path and put that down for another time. I recommend the bullet journal technique if you like to take notes in another way, like with Evernote or some other digital note-taking platform. Go to town on that. But yeah, it's very important to stay focused on what your goals are. What's another one, Ben?
Blake asked, how do you blend time management, waking up / going to sleep, with your significant other and their routine?
This is a fun one because my husband just read the question about balancing time management with significant other. I talked about this in Good Morning, Good Life, actually, because it was really important to me that we communicate about this. Vin knows how important my morning routine is to me. And I'm also introverted. Vin is not, Vincenzo's my husband, by the way. Vin is not introverted. He's extroverted. When he wakes up, he is ready to have a conversation with the world. He is ready to talk to me. He's got ideas from the night before. Like he's just going. So I'm not like that. I need about like an hour, definitely the first 30 minutes, like don't even speak my way. Do not speak my way. I just need to get it going. Somebody who cares about you will care about that. And we had to have that talk when we first moved in together. I was like, here's how I typically do things. There is zero pressure on your part to change the way that you do things. If he always stays up a little bit later than me, and so he sleeps in a little bit later because we take sleep very seriously. I'm not going to tell him I'm waking up at 5 a.m. so you should too. That's ridiculous. If he goes to bed at 11 o'clock, then how's that going to make any sense? He's not going to get enough sleep. So we had to have that understanding, and that is another communication point that I talk about, because it is hard to have that conversation. Letting someone know, like, when you are unloading the dishwasher and first thing in the morning, Amy, I can hear that and I'm still sleeping. And so I have to correct that, because I respect that he's got to get that sleep. I've got to be quiet when he's sleeping. He's got to be quiet when I'm sleeping. And just being able to communicate and saying we respect each other for that is very important. Good question, Blake.
Pranava asked, what exactly do I write in my morning pages?
Pranava asked what to write in morning pages. So I am not the queen of morning pages, although I will anoint myself the princess, because I talk about it every day. But you can read about it in Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. Here's the gist of it. It's really simple. You just get yourself any journal. I tell people to go with like kind of a small journal first, because a lot of people get very intimidated by 8x10. Just go by 5. Is this 5x7? This might not be 5x7, but go for a 5x7 journal. It's a lot easier when you're first starting. And you're gonna write for 3 pages. What I do is I write down the date and I write down the time, and then your job from that point forward is to write your best work ever. I'm just kidding. That is not your job. Your job is to write 3 pages of whatever's in your mind. Anything. It could literally be, Amy told me to do this, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to say. Just get whatever thoughts are in your mind first thing in the morning out of your mind and onto paper, fill 3 pages, and you're done. There's not supposed to be this huge epiphany moment. There's not supposed to be 3 pages of freaking amazing ideas. It should just be your first thoughts in the morning. I did a video on this because I realized so many people were judging themselves for what they were writing in those pages, and that they didn't have the words flowing out of their mind because they were looking for the wrong words. The only words you need to worry about are the ones that are in your mind. Mine usually look like, Lucy woke me up at 5:30 this morning. She peed and pooped and I had to clean it up, and that was not the best way to start my day. That's usually what my morning pages say. I'm not kidding, because I'm just telling you what happened, what's on my mind. I watched This Is Us last night and it was really sad. I'm just writing anything that's in my mind, because the purpose of that is to get that stuff out of the way. And so then I can really not just be in touch with what I'm actually thinking, which isn't beautiful, but then anything that happens after it is much more likely to have clarity around it, because I've already dealt with the issues of the day before. So if you start doing morning pages, do not freak out if you can't fill 3 pages. Just remember that you can. And if you're thinking, I can't fill 3 pages, you should be writing that down, because that's all your job is to just get any thoughts off your brain when you first wake up. So recommend you watch that video that I made on it, just so you can get a better idea, but don't judge yourself. Just clear your mind first thing in the morning. Do we have time for one more question?
Yes.
Cool. Just so you guys know, this is a part of the Ask the Expert series with QuickBooks. We are streaming this episode live. I don't do this very often on AmyTV here on YouTube, and we're also live on the QuickBooks channel as well. There is going to be another episode of Ask the Expert, helping small businesses all over the world kind of really work through an unprecedented time. This is a different type of moment for all of us, no matter what we're doing or what we hope to achieve. So getting advice from any expert that will share it with us is so important. The learning that we have to do continually every day to go after the life we want is vital. So I do recommend you check out that series. Make sure that you follow QuickBooks over on their YouTube and follow their social. They'll be updating you on all the amazing experts that are sharing great tips, and you can go and ask them questions as well. What do you got, Vin?
Carol says, hello from Brazil.
Hi, Carol from Brazil.
What do we do when we feel unmotivated about our routine, even if we think we know our why?
If you feel unmotivated about your routine, even if you think you're pretty clear on your why, you're human. Congratulations. We can't be motivated all the time. This is the truth of it. And this is actually probably the best way to end this, because there's probably even pressure with just watching videos like this, right? You feel like you have the best of intentions. You've got a goal. You've got a why. You're like, Amy's going to tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do, Amy. But then you have to go and do it. And no one's watching. It's just you. It's just you and your goals and your whys and your hopes and your dreams and your vision. And you just are saying, okay, but like, I just don't got it today. I just don't have it. That is so normal. There's seasons of life for a reason. I really believe that. And I go through so much lack of motivation in my day-to-day. It happens to the best of us. It doesn't mean that you are worthless. It doesn't mean that your product isn't great. It doesn't mean that your idea isn't good. It doesn't mean that this isn't worth your time. You just got to identify where you are, be self-aware of it, and just say, you know what, today is not my best day to do creative work. I am so unmotivated. Or innovative work. I'm so unmotivated. That is not the headspace I'm in. But if I can move something closer to the goal that is easier to do, I will do that. Or I will commit to taking this day off. I'll tell you right now, the next couple of weeks, I'm taking a vacation. Because I'm unmotivated? No, I'm actually like worried I'm gonna have too many ideas for the next couple of weeks and I'm gonna wanna work the whole time. It's because we need to reset. We need to stop thinking that we need to be on our A game every single day. We need to stop thinking that even every video that you watch, it could teach you something, but it doesn't necessarily have to be something you have to do right now. It can help get you in the right mind space. So don't feel like you have to be motivated all the time, but do spend more time with like-minded people to where you want to be. Because when you do that, when you get to talk to your, what we like to call personal board of directors, I would love to be on your personal board of directors. I would love for you to call on me for time management and work-life balance and productivity and blocking and morning routine stuff. That's what this channel is for. Use me for that when you feel unmotivated by it. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be better than human on a regular basis. We have moments of being unmotivated, and that's okay. Good question. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Remember, subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life you want. Cheers.